This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Connor O'Gara, national columnist, Saturday Down South, here the day after the Super Bowl, which means, Connor, well, the football season is over as far as college and the NFL. We get USFL, XFL still coming up. They're finally going to be battling it out or anything like that. Now, I know you'll watch the spring games when they do come out. What about the two minor leagues of professional football? Any chance you're watching those?
Orlando has an XFL team, so I'm not opposed to that. I'm old enough to remember going to the debut of the Alliance of American Football, wherein a certain Steve Spurrier led the best team in the AAF, the Orlando Apollos. Who could forget? Print the T-shirts. I think they got rings for it. So I'm not opposed to it, but I can't say that I'm going to be totally locked in. The DVR is not exactly it's not locked and loaded for minor league football just yet.
Yeah, because there's college basketball, there's college baseball, and the major leagues and all of that seem to matter a little bit more. So how about the Super Bowl? That was an entertaining game. Maybe a little bit of an anticlimactic ending, but great performances all around. Kansas City might have got the benefit of a call that looked like the right call at the end of the game again, and, that's just going to fuel the conspiracy theorists that still adhere to the NFL going by a script.
Yeah, look, those people didn't hear James Bradbury come out and say after the game, like, yeah, I held him. I was hoping that I'd get away with it. I mean, that's kind of lost in the shuffle of all that. But, yeah, I mean, don't let anything get in the way of a good conspiracy theory, I guess. Game was awesome. Ending was terrible. Sometimes that's just what it is. It doesn't always have to be like the NFL is rigged or they wanted the Chiefs to win or whatever. Even, the alternative, Travis Kelce coming out afterwards once again and saying nobody wanted the Chiefs to win or, nobody believes in us, not a single person. It's like, all right, let's move on from this. You guys were the number one overall seed with the best player on the planet. Let's take a chill pill a little bit. But, yeah, it was a great game, and it was fun to see Jalen Hurts shine on that stage. The worst-case scenario for somebody that did not have a rooting interest in that game would be to watch Pat Mahomes look significantly better than Jalen Hurts throughout that game, and then have all the Jalen Hurts doubters come out of the woodwork after years of being proven wrong and come out and say, oh, yeah, see, he's just not on that level, blah, blah, blah. And that's just not the case. And I think, you even hear Mahomes say afterwards, like, there should be no doubt anymore. This guy's phenomenal. And it got me kind of thinking, faces the NFL for the next 10 years, Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow. If that's the three faces of your league
and
moving
your guy,
forward, I think the league.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, and Herbert, too.
Yeah, I need to see him win a playoff game first.
Fair enough.
Say that, but that's just me.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you about Jalen Hurts because I know when he was coming out, and I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I think he's just a football player. He's a competitor. He's a winner. Devontae Smith, a guy that I thought he was a can't miss receiver. A.J. Brown is just he is a man. When you watch A.J. Brown play receiver, that's how men. I mean, he's an absolute just beast out there. But Jalen Hurts, I did not think he was going to have this much success this early. Has he exceeded your expectations?
Wildly. I mean, wildly. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Like, I think in this day and age, it's so easy to get caught up in a take, in rooting against people because you want your take to be proven right. And I'm happy to be wrong about Jalen Hurts. Like, so wrong. Thinking I knew what his ceiling was. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but to me, like, you just see it on that stage. I mean, some of the throws that he's making, like, it's like this guy he's gotten so precise, and he makes every throw that you need. And, yeah, like, he doesn't always have the most unbelievable arm, from a Josh Allen standpoint, but, like, he just makes up for it in so many other ways. Like, every single time. Like, Matt, you've been in these situations before. How easy did Jalen Hurts make 3rd and 1 look like the Chiefs were already moving in the other direction every single time he lined up for a QB sneak? To me, like, I'll take Jalen Hurts on my team any day.
And they're so good at, like, at short yardage. I mean, really short yardage with that little rugby scrum.
That's what I was going to say. They had it looks they were getting low, man. Kelce, oh my goodness, I ain't seen a center do what he's been doing.
Now that's a rule change in the NFL from this last year. You can't do that in college football, right?
I don't think so. And maybe that's something that NFL teams should be doing more of. And I understand you want to protect the investment. You don't want to get the quarterback hurt and all that. But, like, I mean, think of how many critical situations we see a game come down to. And Nick Sirianni every single time is like, yep, I don't care if you know what we're doing. Like, we get so caught up in this era of modern offenses of trying to be unpredictable and not knowing what the other is going to do. And sometimes it's best to just say, I know I have an advantage every single time I run this play. I'll tell you we're running it, and we're just going to do it. And that's bully ball, and Alabama fans will tell you that it's frustrating that their team has gotten away from that premise. But it's just not such an easy thing to execute. You have to have the right guy in place under center to be able to do that. Jalen Hurts certainly appears like he's that guy.
All right. Oklahoma and Texas, man. We got to get into this because it's actually happening a year early, which we knew this was all going to happen. Like, did anybody really think that the Big Ten would expand to 16 and the SEC would stay at 14 for 1 year with the expansion of the college football playoff? It was square peg, round hole right there. I never believed that Texas and Oklahoma would stick to that contract. And truthfully, Connor, when you look at, like, it comes down to money, right? Comes down to money. What did I read? SEC schools got $49.9 million on the disbursement from the Southeastern Conference. Texas and Oklahoma are paying $50 million to get out. So they'll make that back immediately, like the next year, once they finally join the league, and then some. Like, nobody thought that this wasn't going to happen.
Well, you had to make the TV partners happy too, and that was the issue with Fox and ESPN. That was the holdup, and they had to kind of make right on that agreement. And part of that contract and the way that it was able to be solved was agreeing to shift the Michigan-Texas series so that Michigan and Texas would play a non-conference game in Ann Arbor, a game that would be on Fox in 2024. So they kind of had to make sure that all parties were on board. But like this time last week, I was saying, hey, I don't know that this is going to happen, even though there's, like you said, all the motivation for it to happen. And it's not that Texas and Oklahoma are worried about the money that they're going to make when they come into the SEC, but you have to make all parties happy. And that's why there's so much often red tape, or whatever you want to call it, surrounding these situations. Like, go look at all of the holdups right now with the ACC and the grant of rights contract that has them locked in to 2036 with their current TV contract. I mean, it's just not always that easy to get out of it, even though you obviously see the motivation from one side or multiple sides, when very oftentimes we're talking about three parties involved needing to get their way. And in this situation, it did. And now we're going to have a very new era of college football starting in 2024.
So you think Texas and Oklahoma are just two A-plus, top tier additions? And do you think that SEC will make another addition in the next 4 or 5 years and bring in somebody else?
So here's the funny thing, and I won't rule that out. That would be, it would need to be the exact right fit. I don't see that being as imminent right now. Mm-hmm. And now, if the Big Ten were to add a couple, and then the SEC is like, all right, we should add a couple because why wouldn't we? And as long as the ACC grant of rights deal is in place, then I think that's a potential holdup, because I think a lot of those potential suitors are in the ACC. So that kind of, puts a stop in the midst of that. But where I think this is interesting is Texas and Oklahoma have a way of benefiting the SEC in such a significant way, but not necessarily hurting the SEC or cannibalizing the SEC. And here's what I mean by that. They're pretty vulnerable right now. Oklahoma just had its worst season since 1998. Texas is going into year 3 with Sark not really being sold that he's the long-term guy. His buyout's still going to be $18 million after this season, so kind of TBD on that. But Texas has had one top 10 season since, they went to the national championship and lost to Alabama in 2009.
Is that Colt McCoy? Yeah, that's been that while, huh? Yeah.
That's it. But, think about that. I mean, and you get to benefit, if you're the SEC, from their brands, and you get that in your TV contracts. You get to benefit from that with the playoff selection committee, with the 12-team playoffs starting in 2024, and you're going to get the benefit of the doubt as the super conference, which you are. But is it maybe blown out of proportion a little bit what Texas and Oklahoma are in this day and age? Probably right now, yeah. So the SEC is actually kind of lucking out from all of this, and that it's not getting them probably at a different time in the 21st century.
I guess there's also a thought that there might be an adjustment period anyway, even if they were, consistently good in the Big 12. That the going theory is that, well, I mean, look at TCU and how they adjusted against Georgia. Now that's just one team. Who knows what would have happened if they'd have played against, South Carolina or LSU, other teams that had good to decent years in the Southeastern Conference. But we just saw it right there. TCU got blown out when it came to Georgia. Maybe the same thing would have happened against Alabama. But then again, I mean, you can remake a football program much, much quicker. The last time that the SEC expanded, and I mean, it took A&M a little bit of time. I mean, heck, look at where they are right now. Mizzou actually won their division the first 2 years in the league, and then they've kind of fallen back into mediocrity. But there's still a chance Texas and Oklahoma could just remake the roster the year coming into the SEC, because guys want to play in the Southeastern Conference, and they'd have a chance with those two schools.
You're exactly right, and that's why I probably shouldn't get too entrenched in that belief, because A&M had one season in the AP Top 25, one finish in the AP Top 25 in the 21st century before they came to the SEC. Year one in the SEC, they have the Johnny Manziel year. They beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Best AP Top 25 finish since the Bear Bryant era. And then Mizzou, year two, year three, they win the East. Now, Mizzou was in a little bit of a different spot with Gary Pinkel as opposed to A&M having a year one coach in Kevin Sumlin their first year in the SEC. But it just kind of goes to show you, then they've really struggled to sustain any sort of level of success since then. It just kind of goes to show you, we can think we have these things figured out, but in today's day and age in college football, especially now in the era of the transfer portal, you can overhaul these things quickly. And Oklahoma just signed the number 4 high school recruiting class, and they have a major influx of talent. We know that Texas is being really active in the portal, buying players, whatever you want to call it. It looks like they're doing it right now. So, yeah, these things can change in a hurry, and maybe we'll be having different conversations about these two teams next year.
Matt and I have disagreed a little bit on what the SEC will look like with 16 teams. And I heard Matt likes divisions, and I can see the reason for wanting divisions, but I almost think the decision's already been made to go to 9 games and have a 3-team permanent schedule, and then you rotate amongst the rest of the other 6. I heard Greg Sankey on Feinbaum, I think it was Friday, and he didn't confirm that, but he certainly said that's what the conversation is right now. It's 9 games, 3 permanent opponents, 6 rotating. And I think it's a lot more difficult to figure out what the 3 permanent opponents are than some people would think. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this. There's geography, there's and then there's competitive balance too. I mean, you can't have a team playing Alabama, Georgia, and LSU on a year-by-year basis. I just can't see that happening.
Yeah, and at the same time, what's competitive balance right now? We've seen only 2 SEC East teams win the conference championship in the post-Tim Tebow era. I mean, that's not competitive balance. It's considered a major win for the East this year that they win 8-6 against the West. There hasn't been competitive balance. This schedule format in the 3-6 model with 3 permanent rivals and 6 rotating home and homes, it creates more parity, and I'm for that. And it's not to say that it's a great, perfect system in which everybody's going to be happy, because inevitably a few teams are going to feel wronged and a few rivalries will go by the wayside, but it's not like they're never going to play. I mean, they'll play at least twice within a 4-year stretch, and we won't have these situations where, Georgia still hasn't been to College Station. A&M's been in the SEC since 2012. What are we doing here? I mean, you're supposed to be in the same conference, and if you're going to truly call yourself a super conference, you should have teams that play each other on a more regular basis. And so, as more of a fan of kind of the modern way of thinking with some of these things, I'm a little bit more of a believer that the 3-6 model will work. And even though there's going to be teams that are unhappy, I think it creates more balance in the long term.
Yeah, I think it's worse for the fans. I think the fans like to know that you in your divisions, even if you got your 8, everybody plays everybody, then you cross over 2 times or 3 times, and then you have your two champions that played everybody. You actually have an SEC champion instead of you're saying, oh, well, you played these 7 teams this year, and you're not going to play this team for another 4 years. I think you're missing out. I think they're missing out for the fans and for everybody, the nostalgia aspect of it that. Man, you want to play. You want to know, man, we're playing these 7, 8 teams every year. That's who we're battling. And then you rotate every couple years, and then you have your true championship. You're not really going to get that. Now, you might actually get the best 2 teams, might be from one division. So it might work out where you're getting your best 2 teams, because there's a couple years where Alabama, LSU, and Auburn or whatever were the 3 best teams in the SEC no matter what. So you're all on the west side. But, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all works out.
Counterpoint, though, we're going to get more Power 5 games. And that's what I think is going to be the great end result of this and this expanded playoff, is that now, because you can be a team that can make the 12-team playoff going 9-3 theoretically. We get look at the future schedules in the SEC, man. Like, some of these teams have loaded up already, and that's great to see. And I think that's good for the future of the sport. The SEC going to a 9-game conference schedule for the first time ever, and getting to see these teams play more often. Like, to me, that creates the type of competitiveness that I want to see. Like, the season is so short as it is. I want more competitive matchups, and this is a way, albeit with some downsides, admittedly, this is still a way to be able to give us that.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts.